We're not on Daf Nun Vav. Actually, no, not on Daf Nun Vav. We're going to start on Daf Nun Hey. We're going to start from Bo Minei Merav Sheshas. It's about 2 lines. It's a line and a word above the wide lines on Nun Hey, Amud Aleph. I think you got the Bava Basra.
Yeah, Baba Basra.
In Sanhedrin, that is. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. Supposed to be learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash. We're learning the Nishmas, the Kamat of the Messian, and Moshe for anyone that needs. And supposed to be have good news from the hostages and Israel should be safe. Okay. Gemara starts like this: By my name Rav Sheshas, Eivet Kechav Mabala Behema, Mal Takala V'Kalam Didan. Okay, let me explain what happened. In the Mishnah, we learned that if someone lives with another man, or he lives with an animal, so we said about the animal that the animal is put to death as well. Okay, someone lives together with an animal, the animal is put to death. We gave 2 reasons in the Mishnah. One reason was that because a calamity happened to the person because of the animal, which means that the person was put to death because of the animal. So because of that, because this animal is the cause for that calamity, so therefore we put the animal to. That's one. That's called takala. There was a calamity that happened, a stumbling, something negative happened. The second one is, second thing, Davaracha, the Mishnah says that this animal shouldn't be walking around in the market. And people will say, that's the animal that caused so-and-so to be put to death, which is an embarrassment to the person. So there's a shame and a calamity. So the Mishnah gave me 2 reasons. Okay, now. No, yeah, it could mean that. In this case, both apply fully. That's in the original case, both reasons apply. Now we say, let's move over to another case where you only get 1 reason. Now there's 2 ways that you'll only get 1 reason. One way is where there's no calamity, and one way is where there's no shame. So we start off with a case where, this is Boi Minei Merav Sheshas, the students asked Rav Sheshas. What about a case where there's going to be no shame? Because, for example, a non-Jew lives with an animal. So Rashi points out that there's no shame there. First of all, because that was common. So that wasn't so embarrassing. It wasn't like this, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe anyone. No, this was something that non-Jews would do. And the second point Rashi says is that we're not concerned about the embarrassment of the non-Jew, even if there is. Okay, so his question is like this. Takala v'kalan b'inan, do we need both calamity and shame? And here we'll only have the calamity because a non-Jew that lives with an animal is also put to death, but we won't get the shame. We don't have the shame. Or Oidilma Takala Afalpisha Kalan, or maybe just the calamity itself is enough to put the animal to death. We don't need the shame as well. In those, each reason independently would work. Rav Sheshas says, let me tell you the answer. They asked him, so he says, Tanisua, I'll prove it to you. I have a brisa. When it comes to trees that were worshipped as idols, when the Jewish people came into the land of Israel, it says that they should destroy any Asherah tree. So they don't eat, they don't drink, and they can't smell. The Torah says that you should destroy, burn, and destroy, right? You should destroy it. Because calamity came to people because of it. So over there,
don't we have also the
we destroy the tree, right? We destroy the tree. Why are we destroying the tree? Is there any embarrassment to the non-Jew that worshipped idols by that tree? No, it's just because it caused harm. Just because it caused harm itself. So that itself, you see, the harm itself without shame is enough to destroy the tree. It's a Tu B'Shvat discussion here. We're comparing trees to animals. We're saying that if an animal causes, then you can destroy the animal. If a tree causes something harmful, And so you destroy the tree. So by an animal also, if it causes something harmful, you destroy it, even though that's not causing shame, it's just a calamity.
Still, with the destroying anything that has to do with idolatry, still go along with this.
That's what we're saying, that we're destroying the tree that was worshipped as because it caused harm.
But the reason that we destroy anything that has to do with idolatry is because of this caused the downfall of the.
That's the way we're viewing it right now. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Hill is bringing out an interesting point.
What?
Hill is saying that maybe it's not because it caused anything, it's because it's an idol. Well, let's take a look. Let's go.
It transferred because they did what they did with that tree in particular. It's not the tree's fault, if you will.
Right, but it wasn't the animal's fault, whatever a human does with the animal either.
They had the concept that they would take everything to the middle and burn everything.
Oh, that's by the city of. I don't. This is not by the city. This is just when they came into the land of Israel. I think.
Yeah,
I think that's what it's
a
referring to.
particular incident.
Elamiyat, the Gemara challenges this. The Gemara says Elamiyat. Okay, basically, according to Rav Shesh's answer, a calamity itself without shame is enough to destroy it's not the perpetrator, it's the whatever was there, the stumbling. Elamiyata, if that's the case, that you're going to say that just the calamity itself is enough to destroy the animal in the tree. Let's say an Andrew bows down to his cow, to his animal or dog or something. So do you have to kill the dog to kill the cow? What happens over there? So we say that no, you don't have to. An animal does not become prohibited as an idol just because someone bowed down to it. It's not how it works. And we have a proof for that. Because when it comes to bringing a sacrifice, one of the rules is that you're not allowed to bring an animal that was worshipped. If you have to tell me that you're not allowed to bring an animal that was worshipped, obviously you're allowed to let the animal live and you're allowed to this whatever, but you just can't bring it as a sacrifice. So you see that bowing down to an animal which caused the non-Jew to be put to death, but that you don't kill the animal. So you see the calamity it doesn't do it. It's not something of calamity that would cause the animal. The Gemara says 1 second. Because if a Jew bows down to an animal, the animal doesn't get forbidden. So the same thing, we're not going to be stricter by a non-Jew than by a Jew. No, we don't like when the non-Jew has stricter laws than the Jew. Now, there are certain laws that are in the violation of the law, we end up stricter. But to say that non-Jews are holier than the Jews because they have, that we don't do. So the laws, so if it doesn't work for a Jew, then it won't work for the non-Jew. The Gemara says, but so 1 second. But you're only making the problem worse because Yisrael gufei litzar. So why don't we say that it's prohibited by the Jew? The animal that got bowed down to. Midi the Havayarvia, just like someone that lives with an animal. We say that the animal gets killed. Same thing should apply. If a Jew bows down to the animal should get killed. So we have a problem with Rav Shesh's answer. Well, Amar Abaya. Abaya says, he argues on Rav Shesh's. And he says they actually need both. Need calamity and shame. I can answer the problem with the animal that was bowed down to because there's more shame with living with an animal than to bow down to an animal. So therefore, when it comes to living with an animal, where we have the real shame, that's when we say we put it to death, the animal. There's more shame to the human. But bowing down to the animal, we don't put it to death. It's not the same level of shame. Where it says, very lana, what about trees? That doesn't have much shame. The Torah says you have to destroy the tree that was worshipped. If it's the level of shame that causes to be destroyed, so the tree has even less shame. The Gemara says, no, the Torah is more concerned over animals than trees. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was under the impression that you would have to destroy Asherah trees, but not any tree.
Right, and
Any tree but
it's
that's
referring to
specific,
an Asherah tree.
but it's referring to any animal though, right?
Yeah, but 1 second. The Asherah tree that's being destroyed is only in the Asherah tree that was in the time when the Jewish people came into the land of Israel. I don't think it was the whole time they were in Israel. You had to walk around and chop down trees. I think the Gemara Sukkot talks about Asherah de Moshe, the Asherah tree that was there when they entered into the land. That it says that when you come into the land, you should destroy all the idols that are there.
I think it's what kind of Hillel was saying. It's a completely different scenario.
The what?
The one is a specific tree that you have to destroy, and this is any animal that a person bows down to.
Uh-huh.
Not any tree that a
What-
person
what-
bows down
what-
to, say.
I was,
Unclear.
I was thinking, that throughout history, it looks like people have had more issue with animals than with trees. This is the only tree that I've heard of, but people, calves, goats, like all types of animals.
Huh. I mean, you're saying with idolatry.
Yeah.
Animals are
Okay.
more common than plants for idolatry, yeah.
Right. Right. Let me just see where we're holding over here. Abai is saying that there's a difference between the type of shame, level of shame that comes from living with an animal to bowing down to an animal, and that's why living with the animal there's more shame, and Abai needs the shame to cause the death of the animal. That the shame is part of it. So because there's more shame, that causes the death. So we said 1 second, if there's more shame, so then what about the tree? If it's only because there's a lot of shame, what about bowing down to the tree, the Asherah tree? Why do we destroy the tree? If you need a lot of shame to cause, so we said, well, you need a lot of shame only by an animal. You don't need a lot of shame by a tree. By a tree will destroy even for less shame. That's the way it's saying over here. Yeah.
Isn't it as a gezerah? Don't we have it's a mitzvah to cut down these trees that we call an Asherah tree? Are we looking for a reason? I mean, in some ways, Asherah trees are distinct from other things found in nature because, let's say, a mountain is worshipped as a avodah zarah, it doesn't become aser to us.
Right.
Or the ocean, it doesn't become aser, but there's something about a tree. And I thought it was just because we have a pasuk.
Right. Yeah, I think Reb Naftali, I think you're asking that it's not what you're asking is it's not this is what Hillel was mentioning. It's not what the tree caused. It's the tree itself that needs to be destroyed.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. The Gemara is viewing it in this comparison that because the tree doesn't have free choice, it's only that what the tree caused. The tree itself is just the tree, right? But nevertheless, because of what it caused, we're viewing it as only as a means to something. That's the way at least in this Gemara, the way it's been.
The animal will also be limited.
Exactly.
With choice.
Right, exactly, and that's why we're doing this comparison. Rava says, Amra Torah, Behema Nenes Me'avera. The reason why an animal that's worshipped is not killed, right, is because when an animal is lived with, the animal gets some enjoyment from that. Because the animal enjoys it. If someone bows down to an animal, the animal doesn't care. It's, like, go knock yourself out. It's animal doesn't gain anything, and it doesn't even notice. So, but if someone lives with the animal gets some enjoyment. So tiharik, so the animal is a participant. That participation causes that the animal is killed. However, okay, that's Rava's comparison. Gemara says 1 second, very understand. What about the tree? Someone bows down to a tree. The tree doesn't know, right? Does it reciprocate? Say, oh, I'm so happy you bowed down to me. Doesn't right? It doesn't know anything about it. So nevertheless, you have to destroy it. So why? It's not that participation not the participation that causes it to be. Okay, the Gemara answers, well, the Balei Chayim Kamrin and the Chas Rachman Alayu. We're talking about animals is different than trees. Yeah. This comedian was talking to a vegetarian. Says, yeah, you have to have pity on the animals. They also have feelings. So he said something about what about cabbages? You know, they also have feelings. You know, cut a cabbage, you just separate it from. Anyway, the Gemara here obviously sees that as different. That animals need a very strong reason that they should be destroyed, but a tree needs less of a reason.
That
Right?
means they're more
Exactly.
important.
Exactly.
The animal.
Animals are more important, and that's
Then if
why
they're stricter on
that's
the-
why we need a more of a reason. We need a bigger reason to destroy the animal. You don't just destroy an animal so simple.
that was strict on eating of diet.
And we're stricter on Yidden. Yeah, not in the punishment though, just in the laws.
Why don't we learn it from the lambs of Yitzias Mitzrayim of Pesach? It was the mitzvahs of Avodah Zarah.
That tell me again. We took the lambs for.
It was the mitzvahs of Avodah Zarah.
Yeah, but they didn't worship this specific lamb, right?
All the
And
lambs were
then-
worshipped. It says that Moshe tells Paro, how could we slaughter your lambs?
Right,
And
but it doesn't mean that.
V'lo yiskelunu. Obviously, they worshipped all lambs.
Yeah, but not every lamb, right when it was, and not it, as an individual. The concept, lambs were worshipped, but in order to take a sacrifice, it had to be a lamb that was never worshipped. Right, I think it says that Nevad learned in the beginning of Vayikra that it prohibits an animal that was worshipped.
How did they confirm that a lamb was not?
It's got a newborn, and that from their own flock, and they took it. Right. Yeah. Okay, Tashima, come and listen. Now we quote the Mishnah. Now the Mishnah itself could be used as a support for this itself, as we're going to see. Again, the question that they asked Rav Sheshis was, do you need both or is just one enough? So let's take a look at this. Davar acher, we quote the Mishnah. Shleitei behemai veres b'shuk. The reason why we killed the animal that the human lived with is because the animal should not be walking in the marketplace. And the people will say, this is the animal that so-and-so got killed over because of. Okay, now my love, does this not mean that me the seifa, this is the second answer. This is the second explanation. Now, me the seifa, takala v'kala. Now, the seifa, this explanation really has two things in it. First of all, we mentioned that so-and-so got killed over. And second of all, we're mentioning that the sin that just happened. So there's a shame, and there's the calamity. In the second answer itself, you have both. So what's the first answer? Need the sefer takala v'kalan, reisha takala b'loy kalan. So then the reisha, which gave us that reason, that said that it causes a calamity, so that it caused harm. So v'heichadami, what would be a case of the reisha of that it's referring to? It must be ovid kachav ma'bala behema, where there's only calamity but no shame. And like Rashi explained, why is there no shame by the non-Jew that lives with an animal? Either because it's so prevalent, or because we're not concerned about the shame of a non-Jew. That's not our topic here. We don't have to kill animals because a non-Jew is going to be embarrassed. So, but whatever the case is, we're seeing from the fact that there's two clauses in the Mishnah, the Seifa, which includes both calamity and shame, and the Reisha, which only has calamity. There's our answer. Obviously, calamity itself is enough. The Gemara says, no. You're right that there's a diuk here, but which diuk it is, you're not necessarily right about. The Gemara says like this. Just 1 second. Loi seifa takala v'kalan. You're right that the seifa has takala v'kalan, the calamity and shame. However, Reisha, but the first part of the Mishnah, hakamashma dafilu kalam b'lei takala nami mechayvi. Maybe it's coming to teach me something else. Maybe it's coming to teach me not calamity without shame. Maybe it's coming to teach me shame without calamity. Now this is a little strange because, but if you take a look at the Mishnah itself, the Mishnah said so and so died because of this. What's the words of the Mishnah?
Say, someone died.
Because of takala, because a calamity happened. How are you telling me it's only shame and not calamity when the wording of it is calamity? The Rashi over here says, the calamity is the shame, not the calamity. The calamity is the shame. Rashi like adjust this. Okay, so that's the way we're gonna adjust this. And now, what's a case of shame without calamity? Which that's the first case of the Mishnah. According to this, Yisrael habal behema b'shaygig. If a Jew lives with an animal b'shaygig, so there's no death penalty. You follow? There's no death penalty, so there's no calamity, but there still is shame. If you let that animal walk around. But Rav Amnun asked the question, Yisrael habal behema b'shaygig mahu. Do you kill the animal if a Jew lives? The Jew is not put to death. Do you still kill the animal? Do we need the calamity and the shame? But over here, you don't have both. You only have shame. You don't have calamity. Or perhaps the color. Maybe shame itself is enough. Okay. So we thought we had a proof. Because we had the proof, we adjusted now we've just adjusted the question, and now we have a new question. What's going to be if a Jew? The first question was if a non-Jew lives with an animal. Now we've introduced a new question. What if a Jew lives with an animal b'shegig, which is the opposite problem. The shame without calamity. Yeah.
Like, basic level, it seems like they're killing the animal to save the person from
Shame. Right.
what part of the consequences. He is part of the package. He lived with the animal. Why are they?
But we don't have don't want to do this collateral type. Okay, now there's all of these other things. He got his punishment. After the punishment, he's considered atoned for, and now that's it. You don't have to keep punishing him the rest of his life. He's dead. You don't have to keep punishing his remembrance, his memory.
But then punishing the animal for
The animal is created for whatever benefit it's going to give to.
but not the one that he used, because if not, he wouldn't be killed for it.
And they're not right. Exactly. That's why this one is doesn't have its purpose is not being fulfilled.
And they don't make distinction between the Gentile and because if for the Gentile is the normal way, like why are you gonna kill the animal for no reason if
That was the Gemara's question. That's the question for Absheshus. Do you kill an animal if it lives with if there's no shame there? Right? But or do you kill it only because it caused the harm? Right? That was the Gemara's question. Well, now we're up to this new question now. By Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna says Yisrael about okay. Tashima, Amar Rabbi Yosef Tashima. Rabbi Yosef is going to try to resolve this new question. A Jew that lives with an animal, b'shaygig, do you kill the animal? Tashima, if there's a young girl that's 3 years old. Now, what happens at the age of 3 is that if she has relations, it's considered actual relations. Under 3, it's not considered relations. After 3, under 3, the virginity grows back actually. But after 3, so it's considered relations. So it says miskadeshes b'bia. If someone does kedushin with her, one of the 3 ways of kedushin is kesef shtar b'bia, money, document, or relations. So she has kedushin. V'imbala yavam. Let's say this is interesting because she was married once, and her husband passed away. She's only 3 years old. Her husband passed away. There's a lot of experience at a young age, right? And now she's marrying her brother-in-law, right? The Yavam. It comes to the Yavam and lives with her. Kana, he acquired her. It's already considered. How does the Yavam work? He lives with her. And if another man, not her husband, lives with her, that would be considered adultery, and that person would be put to death. And if she's a nida and she lives with her husband becomes tamei. The tamei mishkav tachten ke'elyon. That makes what's under as what's the sheet that's under the bed that's under her as tamei as the upper blanket, which means that it's a rishon l'tuma. It's not an avatama. If it would be an actual zav, for a nida, then it becomes the upper blanket becomes an avatam. But the lower blanket becomes an avatama. But here, because it's only a bayal nida, it's one step removed, so it becomes a rishon l'tama. Nisis l'kayin, if she's married to a kayin, a felas b'shumas, considered a real marriage, and she can eat shuma, even though she was not a kayin, but now she's married to a kayin. Someone that wasn't permissible to her, lives with her, now she can never marry a kayin. Let's say a relative that wasn't allowed to live with her lives with her. Mumsin al yada, they get put to death. Vihi petura, and she is exempt. The Gemara now explains. When we said any of the prohibited relations lives with her, one of those possibilities in that in the parsha of forbidden relations is an animal. Afilu behema, even an animal lives with her. And we said that the animal v'hacha dekalanika takalaleka. Over here, there's only embarrassment, but she doesn't get put to death. So we have embarrassment without death. We say that they get put to death. That means the animal gets put to death, even though she does not. So that's our answer. If a Jew lives with an animal, that's an answer to the other case. If a Jew lives with an animal b'shoigig, where he doesn't get put to death, but nevertheless the animal should be put to death, because you see that shame itself is enough to have the animal killed. The Gemara says no. Since this was on purpose, this is considered a calamity, and the Torah has compassion on her because she's underage. On the animal, it didn't have compassion. In other words, there's still over here is a calamity because she did it on purpose. So in other words, calamity doesn't just mean the death penalty. Calamity could mean the sin as well. Amar Rava says, Tashma, come and listen. Ben now we're talking about a boy. The age of the girl was 3. The age of the boy is 9. So if he lives with his Yavama because his brother passed away and now he's marrying the sister-in-law, he's 9 years old, Kana, he acquires her. Beina nice and get, however, he can't divorce her until he reaches age, until he reaches maturity. He can get married, he can't get divorced.
So Russians.
Right? Well, is this one of the Rabbeim? He wore a talis before he wore tefillin. He got married before his bar mitzvah. I forget which one. Maybe the Reb Marash. So one of them. And he becomes a nida to make. He gets the impurity of a nida if he lives with a nida that would give off enough of a tumah that would make the lower bed as the upper sheet. Paisel veina Michael. He can make that a woman cannot eat truma, because if he's not a kayin but she was a bas kayin, so she won't eat truma, and he can't have her eat truma if he lives with her. And he can also invalidate an animal if he lives with an animal being brought as a sacrifice. And it's put to death. It's stoned because of him. And if he lives with any of the forbidden relatives, so then they get put to death because of him, even though he would not be put to death because he's underage. But over here, there is shame when he walks around. There's shame for what happened. Now when he walks around, let's say it differently. The animal that he lived with, when the animal walks around, there's shame, but he didn't get put to death. We say that the animal gets stoned. Gemara answers the same answer that we said before. This is different because since it was done on purpose, so there still is a calamity, and the calamity is the sin. And the Torah just has compassion on him because he's underage. But the Torah doesn't have compassion on the animal in this situation. We're going to go back to the Mishnah now. Okay. Now we tried to use the Mishnah before to answer the last question, but the last question was if a non-Jew lives with an animal, that would be calamity without shame. We ended up saying that the Mishnah was telling me shame without calamity. And we said, oh, shame without calamity, let's discuss that. And we've got into this. Now, to answer this question, we're going to quote the Mishnah again. It's going to throw us back. So it says, another interpretation of why the animal gets killed. This is quoting the Mishnah. The animal should not be walking around, and we would say that this is because of this animal, so-and-so died, which would be remembering the calamity. Now it says, Mida Seifa, my love, Mida Seifa Takala V'Kalan. In that quote, we have over there calamity and shame. Right? So-and-so would die because of it, and therefore it's a shame to that person. Reisha, so therefore the Reisha must be talking about kalam b'lai takala, shame without calamity, because we had two statements in the Mishnah. Be'echidami, what would be a case of shame without calamity? Yisrael b'alabeim b'shoigeg. It's exactly our question. We have an answer. It's a Jew that lives with an animal, but b'shoigeg, where the Jew is not put to death, so there's no calamity, but there's still a shame when the animal walks around. Everyone remembers that's the one that the Jew sinned with. Where it says loy, it's not a proof, because seifa takala v'kalan. You're right about the seifa that it has both calamity and shame. But reisha, but the first part of the Mishnah maybe is takala b'lekalan. Maybe it's only calamity without shame, not shame without calamity. Calamity without shame. What would that case be? The Gemara is playing over here that you try to prove it for this way, so I'll tell you it's proving the other things. You say, okay, so let it prove the other thing. You say, no, it's proving the first one. You can't really pin it down to be used as an answer for any one of these.
In a Beshogeg case, why would everybody know about it? It wouldn't go to Beis Din or anything, right?
No, it would go to Beis Din, but we wouldn't. But he wouldn't get killed.
Mm-hmm. They would still judge it.
Hey, he would have to say, I didn't know. Right? Yeah. It would go into the Beis Din Inquirer newspaper. Whenever they have those
What reporter?
Reporter, right? Hamagadef. We have a new Mishnah. This is a difficult Mishnah to read, because what the Mishnah is going to do is talking about someone that blasphemes. He curses God. Now the Gemara doesn't like to use that term. The Gemara likes to say he blesses God, which is a euphemistic way of saying he cursed God. But basically, the way we're going to learn this is that every time it says blesses, it really means curses. All right, so Hamagadef, someone that blasphemes. He has to actually say the name of Hashem for this to take effect, and then he's going to be put to death. But if he hears someone else saying, and then he just pipes up and says, "Oh, something," that's not going to count. He has to be the one to say Hashem's name. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha says, right? This is Rabbi Kiva's son. The entire time that this court case is going on, they never use Hashem's actual name. They use a nickname. What's the nickname that they use? Yaka Yosi es Yosi. They say the nickname that they used is Yosi. Yosi has 4 letters, just like the name of Hashem has 4 letters. And the gematria of Yosi is 86, which is the same as Elikim. So that's why they were using Yosi. Right?
How much thought was it?
I'm sorry?
In America's John Doe. Like how much thought goes into this?
You're translating Yosi into Jose? Okay.
Also 4 letters, huh?
Okay.
Same. That's you would pronounce it.
Yeah.
From Joseph, Yossi. Same.
Sorry, I apologize. Where's the co-defendant?
So, they would use a nickname. Now, it's interesting with the way it's putting over here is that it's giving us what the Gemara is going to tell us, but the seeds of this are in the Mishnah, is that when he curses God, he's saying that God should curse God. That's what he's saying. Because he has to curse with God. And so it's like this double mention of Hashem's name. That's right. Yaka Yaisi es Yaisi. Yaisi will smite Yaisi. I'm sorry?
Before, and if they use the same thing double, it was
Something double.
don't worry.
Nigmar din. Once the case is concluded, then they never mentioned what really happened over here because the whole time they were using nicknames. They take everyone out. They ask the witness there, the older witness. She's going to have to say explicitly what you heard. He says what he heard. The Dayanim stand on their feet, and they tear their clothing and they never sew it back up because of this, what they just heard. Basheni Yaimer, the second witness has to say as well, but he doesn't say the full thing. He says, Afani Kamayo, he says, I heard the same thing. So he doesn't, again, we're dealing here with not repeating it. He doesn't repeat it, he just says, so too. So me too. Avashlishi Yaimer, and the third one was to say, Afani Kamayo, I'm the same thing. Tana, yeah. Yeah, like as if in the morning. Yeah. Tana was started in the bright side, Shivarach Hashem B'Shem, that you have to bench. Over here it says Yivarach, you have to bench, you have to bless. So that's, we'll use the words of the, you have to bench Hashem with you have to bench the name with the name. You bench the name with the name. Right? It's a euphemistic way of saying curse. Minani Mili, how do we know that this is the way it has to be? Amr Shmuel. Shmuel says, Damarkra, Pasuk says, V'naikiv Shem B'gaimer, B'nak B'Shem Yumas. He curses the name with the name of Hashem, but it's put to death when he curses the name. So that double mention means that the name of Hashem is cursing the name of Hashem. The Gemara is here now acting as a dictionary. How do you know that noikiv means to curse, to bruche, to bench? Because the pasuk says by Bilam, ma'akav lekavakel. What can I curse if God doesn't curse? And it uses that same shirish of kav as in noikiv, right? Nuns fall out. And I even have a source that you can't do this. It says elikim leisakala, that you can't curse. So it says when the noikiv is referring to curse, elikim means don't curse a judge, but it also means don't curse Hashem. Maybe it doesn't mean noikiv doesn't mean to curse. Maybe it means to pierce. A nekev, it's like to create a hole. That he made a hole in the door or in the window. And I have a source for this, that you can't take Hashem's name and put a hole right through it. It says, you should destroy the names of the idols, but don't do this to Hashem. Maybe there is no source for cursing the name of Hashem. Maybe that pasuk that thought that you said was not the curse, or that says someone that curses gets put to death. Maybe that source really means not to put a hole through the name of Hashem written on parchment. The Gemara says, but how's that going to work? Because we're going to need binan shem b'shem v'leka. You have to type this. The aliens talking to you. But I need one name to do it to the other name, and here you're not doing that. So it says, maybe you put two names one on top of the other, and you pierce them. It says, that's not one name piercing the other. That's you piercing two names. You're piercing one, and then you push the awl or a knife through the name, and then it would go through the next one. But that's not one doing it to the other. It says, well, you can figure that out too. This is like the devil's advocate. Maybe what it means is that you carve out the name of Hashem onto the blade, and then you use that blade that has the name of Hashem on it to pierce the other one, and that would be the prohibition. Strange, concoction of how this is going to play out. It says, but that's not the name that's doing it. That's the sharpness of the blade that happens to have on it an engraved, engraved name. Ema Perusha Shmei. Now we're going through the dictionary of what could the word Naikev mean. Maybe it means to say explicitly. Moshe and Aaron took the men that were explicitly designated by name, and it uses the same shirish, the same root of Naikev. And the warning for this would be from the following sources: you should fear Hashem your God, and don't say Hashem's name in vain. This is saying maybe the death penalty here is when he says Hashem's name. It says first of all, you need one name to do it to the other name. And how do you do that when you're just saying Hashem's name? And another problem is when it says that you should fear Hashem your God, which tells you not to say Hashem's name in vain. but this source is a positive command, not a negative command. But as far as I say, that's not considered a negative command that would cause a death penalty. I think there's other psukim. The Gemara doesn't jump to that. The Gemara says, "Viba Yasema." Maybe we could say we have a source for this. Amar Kra, and it says when that person cursed Hashem, it says in the desert, right? V'yikay v'yikalal. He was kava and he cursed. L'meimra d'naykav klalahu. That must mean that it's the same thing. That kava is cursing. It says v'dil ma'adav tavayim. Maybe not. Maybe it's two things. Maybe he has to say the name. Maybe v'yikay means that he pronounced the name explicitly and then he cursed it. It says Laisal Kadai. You can't say that. Iksiv, because the pasuk says, "Haitzias makalal." Take out the one that cursed. And it doesn't say take out the one that said the name explicitly and cursed. Shmamina chadahu. We see that it's really one. Okay. The following Gemara enters into the big sugya of the Zayin Mitzvahs Pnei Noach. It's not common in Shas, but this is the source for it. It's a few daf over here. Talk about this. We'll leave it for tomorrow. This is the sugya of Sheva Mitzvahs. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day.